Banner of Light, Messages from the Spirits. The seance at which the communications under this heading are given are held at the Banner of Light office, number 138, Washington Street, room number 3, upstairs, every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday afternoon, and are free to the public. Doors close at precisely 3 o'clock, and none are admitted after that time. Each message to this department of the banner we claim was spoken by the spirit whose name it bears, spoken through the medium Mrs. J.H. Conant, while in a condition called the trance. They are not published on account of literary merit, but as tests of spirit communion to those friends who may recognize them. These messages go to show that spirits carry the characteristics of their earth life to that beyond, whether good or evil. We ask the reader to receive no doctrine put forth by the spirits in these columns that does not comport with his reason. Each expresses as much truth as he perceives, and no more. The spirit of Hulda Drew. I have 2 sons, and I wish to speak with them. They went away when I died. They knew nothing about this coming back. They will be astonished to hear from me, but I was so anxious I can't stay away. My name was Hulda Drew. I was 68 years old, and I lived in Bangor in the state of Maine. My children of my sons went away to war with my blessing. I knew when they left they would never see me again upon earth. And they've suffered, oh so much. They'd suffer less, I think, could they know of my anxiety in their behalf, and that they are watched over by their mother. I want them to know that their father, who went away from them when they were quite young, is with me and is now able to do much for them in a spiritual way. And he says, "Oh, my sons, do your duty and feel. If it should so happen that you fall in battle, that you met death while in the performance of duty, remember that you've done what seemed to you to be right, and God will reward you for it hereafter." My youngest son is sick. He's in the hospital, sick. He fears that he must die, but I feel there is no change for him yet. But I want him to place less dependence upon the things of this earth and rely more upon his God and the angels. If he does that, he will soon lose all his present fears of death, and soon learn that there is no death, but that all is life. I was with them when they heard of my death, and I know what was said. My youngest said, "She lived a good life. I know she's gone to heaven." My oldest said, Oh, why is it so? Ordered that mother should die when I was away. Why couldn't I have been there to have smoothed her passage to the grave? I wanted to tell them that I died happy, that I felt satisfied they were doing what they believed to be right. I think I can truly say I was satisfied they were in the path of duty. I want them to know the truth, and I could tell them if I thought it was right for me to do so. I'd tell them not to look for the truth in the church or in the world outside of themselves, for they'll never find it except within their own souls. But sometimes I feel I may do wrong if I tell them that there is little or no truth in the religion of the church. I don't want to do wrong, but it seems to me that there is really very little religion upon the earth. I've only been in the spirit world a few months, and it may be that I've not learned the right, but as far as I know the right, I will return and influence my children to do right. Oh, say to them that I am happy that this spirit world is a glorious one, although not at all like what I expected to find. Oh, it's far more glorious, more beautiful. My son thinks that in a very short time this war will be over and they will return to their home. If I am to judge anything by what I understand from those who seem to understand your position in spirit life, I should say, it's not to end so soon as you think, nor will it end in the way you think it will, either. It's well enough for you to think that you fight for the Union and not for the slave. But God knows better than you. George Briggs speaks. I've got a mother in New York City. Yes, her name is Sarah Adelaide Briggs. My father's name is George Briggs, and my name is George. I was 10 years old, and I've been dead since last winter. I had this fever and died just after Christmas. My father was reported to have been taken prisoner in the Battle of Bull Run. Well, he was, but he isn't where my mother thinks he is. He's not a prisoner in the South, like she thinks he is, but he's dead, and me. And he says that it's better that my mother knows it now. He can't come here, but he says he wants to talk with her, and if she'll go to some place where he can talk, he'll try to come, but he can't come here. My father was a billiard table maker. His business was on Canal Street. We lived on Walker Street. I don't want to tell you the address. I'm afraid I'll get it wrong. But my father says that it's better that my mother knows now that he's dead, and that she not wait any longer about setting up affairs. He says he's dead, and he died about 4 days after he was taken prisoner. And says the news she heard about him being alive and employed in writing for some of the officers in the Confederate Army, that news don't relate to him at all. It's another Briggs entirely. I can't pay you anything. We don't ask anything here. This place, it's free to all. Mary Eldredge speaks. Say to my children who have called me here today, I've heard their call, and sometimes think it fain would remove the shadow that lingers around them. But I feel that every shadow will result in something of joy to them. They think it, too. They think it's in the power of their spirit friends to remove all the shadows. Oh no, it's not. It's not. Nor would we if it were in our power, since we know it will bring them into a higher condition. I've only seen a few short weeks in the spirit world. I told my children before I died, if it was possible, I would come back and speak with them, if possible. And it is possible, thank God. I am Mary Eldredge, and I was 51 years of age. I died of consumption in this city. An invocation of the spirits. O soul of the universe, we would read thy volume of nature and read it aright. And O mighty spirit of eternal progress, then but implanted within our being a desire to grasp eternity's problems and to make them our own. O thou spirit of eternity, as we stand within the vestibule of eternity, and again we are conscious of thy blessed companionship. O Father, we feel that thou art with us continually, that thou art ministering to our necessities and giving us all our soul's demands. O Spirit of the hour, the waves of darkness are surging wildly around us, and we hear the cries and pains of millions and millions of thy benighted children asking for light, asking for rest, asking for somewhere to find repose. O our Father, shall we not teach each sorrowing child to turn within its own heart, there to receive the light, the rest it so craves? Shall we not point them within themselves, that there they may read the book of nature, of which thou, O Father, art the gifted author? O Spirit of the hour, would fain give of our light to these benighted ones of earth. O give us the power as we hear the divine right to elevate not only ourselves, but all humanity here on earth. O Father, the hour upon earth is darker than midnight, and though thy children in bondage seem enveloped in shadows, we know that the sun of freedom is slowly coming up from the east, and must soon burst in splendor upon them. O Holy One, we would have them enter the temple of self and turn to their own God, asking for strength, for light, asking the way to heaven. For, O Father, if they are outside of self, they cannot hope to find thee, for thou dwellest continually in the hearts of thy children. O Spirit of eternal reform, we perceive thy right hand as it grasps the institutions of the hour, and soon we know they must all tremble and fall to the earth, and sooner or later we feel that thy mighty hand will build up new institutions upon the ashes of the past. O ye guardian angels of humanity, ye whose mission it is to teach the children of earth to know and to understand their God, be with us, we pray thee at this time. Oh, draw especially near this hour and give to the weak ones of earth your strength. Give to the benighted ones of your light, and teach them that they are all inseparably bound to each other, and must sooner or later come together under the law of universal love, as willing subjects of Almighty God. O our Father, receive our thanks for all the shadows that have fallen across our pathway. We bless thee, O eternal Spirit of love, for each dark hour that has been ours through life immortal. Ascending unto thee are the desires and petitions of thy children immortal. We will not ask thee that thou accept them and give unto them all the gifts they demand. For, O Father, thou doest all things well. What shall I do to be saved? What shall I do to be saved? Or what shall I do to free myself from the hell that attends me continually? This inquiry has come to us from one who feels himself bowed down by a yoke of sin, or evil, or inharmonious conditions, or from one who feels that he dwells for the time being in hell. He also sends us the following sketch of his life, and he desires to know what we think of him as an individual, and if we suppose he will be condemned to eternal suffering in the future. He says, "From my earliest recollection I have been a slave to an evil temper. Sometimes it would feel as though an evil spirit were possessing me and influencing me to commit acts against my will. I have earnestly striven to throw off this mantle of darkness which hangs like a funeral pall about my life. But in spite of all my power, all my efforts to do so, I'm still a slave to evil, and have been plunged into the deepest hell in consequences of yielding to this violent temper. Now tell me, if you have the power, what shall I do to be saved from eternal punishment hereafter?" Still further, this poor suffering brother goes on to say, 10 years ago I committed the crime of murder, and so human, have charged me with this terrible sin. Yet I am continually in hell, and feel sometimes as though I would give myself up to the authorities as a murderer. But again, I have a wife and children, and should I thus expose myself to the world and them, I should make their lives wretched forever. And give me some light, lift me up out of the hell that surrounds me. Again, he says, I have no faith in spiritualism. I don't believe it's possible for a spirit to cross the river death and speak to its friends immortal. The soul of man, ever true to itself, despises and puts under its feet as far as is possible for it to do so all those conditions that have a tendency to arrest its growth and progress. In spite of the say-so of the world, it frees itself from those conditions of darkness and demands bread for its existence. This individual soul, encased in human form and surrounded by inharmonious and evil conditions, is called aloud unto God, and Almighty has answered it in accordance with his usual kindness of heart. Great Father has responded to the erring one's cry. What shall I do to be saved? The soul asks this question. Oh, no, this question comes from the external of this individual. The soul well knows its power, and that it will unfold one by one its faculties and cast off those conditions that have a tendency to check its growth hereafter. But human nature in the external is ignorant and knows that the soul of man can never be entirely lost. And therefore the cry, what do I do to be saved? Oh, our brother, how we pity you. We cannot find condemnation in our soul for you, though. Now we propose to give this individual a test of our power to read the minds of mortality. We propose to assist him in casting off the crust of infidelity with which he seems to be surrounded at the present time. He is just as good as they were before death, and I profess he tells us no mortal is knowing to the crime which he committed. Now we propose to tell him the exact conditions under which that murder was perpetrated, and the exact time of the commission, in order to show him that he stands, as it were, like a mirror, exposed to the view of the spirit life. And no matter how much his sin may strive to hold itself from the mortal view, it cannot screen itself against the eyes of the Almighty. For you are each one of you open continually to the senses of the spirit life. 10 years ago, we find our questioner plunging himself into hell by giving loose rein to those duties of his external nature that always lead to evil and unhappiness in the future. Had he paused to consider himself at that time, he would not have allowed this evil passion to have gained the mastery over him, but would have said, "Get behind me, evil. I have naught to do with thee." But poor weak mortality is often the slave of evil. It seems that our questioner had at that time, of which we speak, in his employ, a man who was somewhat addicted to the free use of spirituous liquor. He annoyed our questioner extremely, and our good friend tells us in spirit, for although he himself is unconscious of the fact, yet in thought he says, I believe I had not the slightest control over my temper at certain times, for when this person was intoxicated, a demon seemed to rise within me, and I desired to do him harm. Oh, our brother, would it not have been far better, when the evil presented itself to you, that you had met him with an angel power, that you had met this unfortunate man with all the kindness and sympathy of your nature, instead of with anger and reproaches? Yet we will not find fault with you. It is enough that your own soul hath risen in condemnation against you. One night, after our questioner had passed a day of hard thinking at his business, he was met by the individual before mentioned in a state of intoxication. He came to the door of his private room and asked him if there was anything more to do that night. The spirit of evil immediately arose and gained mastery over all the better qualities of his nature, and instead of pitying and gently rebuking him, he pushed him from his door, at the same time telling him to be gone and never enter his presence again. The drunken man reeled and fell. In the fall, he breaks his neck and enters the spirit world. Immediately on perceiving what he had done, our poor brother felt that he had been the murderer of the drunken man, just as much as if he had sent him knowingly to the spirit world. He felt it would be his duty to deliver himself to the civil authorities as a murderer, but a desire to retain his position in society prompted him to conceal his own guilt, and that he make it appear to the world as though his servant had fallen without any interference of his. And so the world believes at the present time that our erring brother is free from the charge of murder. But his own soul took cognizance of the act and demands atonement for it. He cannot escape the penalty of transgressing a natural law. He has violated God's law, and when he has passed through enough sorrow to redeem himself, he shall by his own power become acceptable in the sight of God. What shall I do to be saved? My brother, behold, all around you there is suffering. The poor of the world are in need of material assistance. Have you stretched forth your hand in charity? Have you put your hand into your pocket and given of your wealth to others? Oh no, you never thought of this. Then let me advise you to give liberally of your worldly wealth to the poor and suffering ones of earth, and believe us, in doing so you will draw to yourself high and holy influences that shall lift you up out of the depths of that hell in which you have so long dwelt, and draw you up into heaven. Give of your wealth to the poor of the earth, and though you divide them with your last dollar, we would have you feel that your God demands it, that humanity asks it, and that it is your duty to distribute your wealth among the suffering ones of earth, as partial atonement for your sin. And what else? Shall you unfold yourself in your deformity to the world, to your family, and to your friends? Oh no, certainly not. For by doing so you would not only increase your own sufferings, but plunge those connected with you into the deepest misery. Society or the world has nothing to do with your sin. It is a matter that must be settled between yourself and God. But while the soul is continually prompting to your external nature that you must make atonement for your crime, you may be sure that you are not standing upon a proper plane, that you have not tried hard enough to throw off the yoke of evil that oppresses you. And will your sin follow you through life, you ask? That depends upon yourself in great measure. If you succeed in making a settlement with your own God while here on earth, you need have no fear that the dark genie of your life will trouble you longer here, or seek to follow you to the spirit world. And blame yourself if you find yourself suffering in the hell which you've created for yourself, since you have the power to lift yourself up into heaven. He whose spirit you robbed of its mortal covering has heard your cry, and he desires for us to furnish you with the assurance that he has forgiven you. He goes further and even exonerates you from all blame in the matter, charging the cause of his death directly to himself. But this is because he has overreached the boundaries of law. We do declare you have been to blame and were the direct means of sending your servant unnaturally to the spirit world. What shall I do to be saved, to free myself from hell? Was this hell created by your God? Oh no, it is entirely the result of your own acts, and your own acts alone can remove you from it. But if all you do, turn away from yourself to find God in the kingdom of heaven, turn then within the temple of your own soul, and there find rest and a river of life that will wash you free from all earthly guilt. So see to it that every act of your life is tending toward good and not evil. See to it that you overcome evil with good, and be determined that you will not fight the powers of darkness, but that you will, through goodness, rise superior to them, and place them under your feet. Oh, we pity you, and in harmony with your soul would teach you the way to heaven, and point you to that condition of peace which must sooner or later be yours when freed from earthly sin. For, oh, inasmuch as the soul has the power to overcome evil with good, we are pure. You will rise triumphant over sin and become what you earnestly tell us you desire to be, and peace with God and yourself. The spirit of Edward Kendall speaks. I am not at all used to your beautiful spiritual philosophy. I promised to return if it were possible for me to do so, and give some evidence of the fact of thy immortality, or to return my power to my friends, and demonstrate my power to return to them. It is very easy for a certain class of spirits who are positive in their nature to return and commune with their friends, but those who are negative in their nature find it rather more difficult to do so. I happen to belong to the negative class of individuals who are not possessed of a great share of power over matter, and this is why I have not made myself manifest since death before. I earnestly desire to give my friends, my acquaintances, a test of spirit power and of my own identity, and I've been trying to make arrangements to do so for some time past. But, we disembodied ones may try ever so hard to communicate with our friends in mortal, and yet not be able to do much toward giving them light. Well, my friends on earth believe that if spirits can come at all, they have the power to come whenever they may desire to do so. It's not so at all. We are obliged to come in exact obedience to certain laws, to please even God himself. That's so. Now, I was somewhat celebrated as a bugler while here on earth, and I've been told by those who were acquainted with my style of playing that they could always tell when I was present at any place by the sound of the bugle. Always. They could not see me. Now I profess to retain all my powers, just as good as they were before death, and I profess to be able to use those powers too. If my friends could recognize my individuality before death, I know no reason why they should not be able to do so now. Now, we'll see here. Suppose I have the power to take the instrument and produce a few notes. I should think it would be the best proof of your identity and power as a spirit that you could offer your friends in mortal. Well, I've recently attached myself to a band of spirit musicians who were attendant upon a medium called Miss Lord. Miss Jenny Lord? There are two mediums by that name. I don't know. Do you mean the one who's at present in Quincy? I do. You? I do. I do believe that you've referenced Miss Jenny Lord, the musical medium. Well, what I propose is this person, if my friends will go there and furnish me with a suitable instrument, and if I don't make my presence satisfactory to them, I'll give up. I have no doubt but that your friends will improve the opportunity offered them. I hope they will. They must be willing to conform to the condition of that circle. I think they're not so rigid, but they can't easily do so. Would you like your own vehicle to use upon that occasion? I should. Do you know whether it has been preserved by your family? Oh, it certainly has. It certainly has. Well, I promised to do what I could toward returning and making myself known to my friends, if I should find this spiritual philosophy to be true. Would they not recognize you if you were to give them the solo and wood up quick step? I think so. I'll pledge myself to do it if they'll conform to my rules. And if I don't do it, they may say that Ned Kendall's dead and hasn't the power to return by light of modern spiritualism. When my friends say they desire light, and I for one propose to give them all light that I can. Good day to you. spirit of Lavinia S. Mitchell. I'm Lavinia Mitchell, and I was 28 years of age the 7th day of last August. The 18th day of last September I died, or went away from Earth. I was in Columbus, Ohio. I was a medium for spirit manifestations, but all my friends were opposed to it, and I was obligated to stifle the influence, and perhaps that may have something to do with my death. My last words to my dear Earth friends were, I know I shall have the power to convince you of the truth of spiritualism. I tried very hard to come to this place the same day I left my body, but I could not. I wished to come before my body was buried, if possible, but I had not the power to do so, and have not had until today. There's one person to whom I'd like to demonstrate my spiritual powers. If that person were inclined to do so in accordance with my desire, she would be gifted with beautiful gifts of mediumship. But if the force of circumstances compel her to deny or elide those influences, she too must pass on to the spirit life and leave her mission unperformed, or it must wait to outwork itself in the spirit land. I am told that it's better for the spirit to remain on the earth and finish its mission, and although we may desire earnestly to get free from this body of death, it's far better to fulfill our mission upon the earth, our task, after going to spirit world. I would not wish to see anyone I love placed in my position, and I earnestly pray to God and ask Him for light, for strength, to guide aright the instincts of this undeveloped soul. Ask them if they will always deny the wisdom of the immortals. The restless spirit of Michael Sweeney comes through. I don't have faith. I don't know how to make myself at home here. I lost my life at Fair Oaks. My name was Michael Sweeney. Tell much about this coming back business, but what I'm here for is this. I have a wife and 2 children who are in great distress at this time. It's all very well for Uncle Sam to get you to help fight his battles, but when you come to be shot, he's done with you. Done with you. Then Uncle Sam has got no more for you to do, because you've got nobody to work with. And your family must look out for themselves. I'll tell you what, Cap. There's no reason why my family shouldn't be cared for. I could take care of my folks well enough before I went to war and lose my life. I was given for nothing at all. I give my life to my adopted country in return. My family are negligent and allowed to go hungry. Ask yourself, is this right? It surely is not right. My wife and children are at Fall River. When I was told that I could return to Earth, I thought it was in Fall River I was. But after I got full control here, I find I was in Boston. And whatever word I wanted to send them could only reach them through your paper. I know very well they are ignorant. I know they'll have a hard time to get news. I know I'll have a hard time to get news to them anyway. I suppose they get a small little bit, something, just a little bit, but it's not enough to keep them from starving. When I went to fight for my adopted country, I was told that if I lose my life in the war, that my family would be provided for. And I went away with that upon my heart. And since I'd lost my body, I find that people don't trouble themselves much about the suffering of others. It's everyone for themselves. As long as you go on in this way, I'd be something. It'd be something if your war don't last. Damned. This damned war. It's everyone for themselves. And as long as you go on this way, I'd be damned if your war don't last. It's selfishness that has brought it upon us. Since I come here to the spirit world, I've seen nothing but selfishness in the world. Something don't feel exactly right. I got a little disappointed in not seeing my wife and children here today. And then when I see the lives this war has cost us, and I know that I just give my own life to the devil, I can't help feeling pretty bitter towards some people. Faith, I did what I thought was right. I believed it was a man's duty to fight for his country, and all the other boys felt the same way, I suppose. But I'm just satisfied enough. And I'm not alone, for I see hundreds situated just like myself, who are waiting for the chance to return and speak their minds. Won't they shake heaven and earth when they do come with the story of their wrongs? It's not expected that I would feel very pleasant, sent to the spirit world just as I was, in the heat of passion. Faith, I find myself just the same after death as I was before, and I can't be overlooking things like I know to be wrong and unjust. I think the best thing for the government to do is to free every damn nigger, get them off their hands entirely, and then the wall will very likely settle itself. Faith, I know there is much to be done in a war like this, but while Uncle Sam has 4 million niggers on his back, I'd be damned if he can't walk very fast. You forget there are ladies present. I beg your pardon. That's the way I think about this war. As for swearing, I used to do that when things didn't go right when I was on Earth. And it's not all out of me yet, you said. I thought I would not be troubled about things after I got on the other side, but I find I am. Now I would say this to the rich men that make such long war speeches at public meetings and urge folks to go leave their families. Hadn't you better put your hands in your pockets and help the wives and children of those who've already fallen upon the battlefield? But then the soldier will feel more hard to go when he sees the assistance that's given to others who've lost their means of support by this war. You'll not have to draft if you do this. You needn't expect to get men to enlist though while things are conducted in this bad way. They don't mean to throw their lives away for nothing. I tell you, all these evil things aren't what keeps your war hanging on so long. There's no such thing as covering up the truth. It'll all work itself out, just like a cask of beer. Now, I'd like to have my wife know of my coming here today, and if there's any chance for me to do anything toward making her better off in this world, I'd like to do it. Most I want is to see her out of this trouble. There's enough all around her that's able to help her. All I ask is they take up their duty. We left. We took up our duty and went to war. And now all they need to do is just put their hands in their pockets and help their families. If it was only themselves that had to suffer, they'd know how to pity others. What's your wife's name? Marianne Sweeney? Oh, he's dead, they'll say. And you needn't look for him coming back again. Well, we'll see whether he's dead or not. I think you'll see whether the big army in the spirit world is moving or not soon enough. I think if you want to do right, you'd better remedy these evils. I was a member of the 15th Regiment, Company F. I hope you won't come here to the spirit world as I did, Captain. Or if you do, I hope you'll feel better than I do. Thank you. I don't expect to go the way you did, but I hope you'll soon feel happier than you do now. God bless you. Communication from a son to his father. Dear Father, if you had been taken and I left behind, I would not have sought your spirit. I would have turned to the pleasures of the world, but reverently scattered the flowers of affection upon your grave. But your intuitive nature bids you lift your eyes heavenward. You feel that hidden causes lie concealed behind the effects in the material world. Many are satisfied with the revelations of this past, but like a mariner, you do not fear dangers so much as the breakers ahead. I feel that there is not enough joy left to your earth life to enable you to place us aside among the dead ruins of the past. If faith assures you that your treasures are laid in heaven, your affection leads you to inquire about your surroundings, and happiness, the future, concerns all men. It is right to look beyond the gloom of the tomb into the mysterious realm we inhabit. Life seems like under the hustle-bustle which indicates the beginning of a long journey. We gather up our lifetime of experience and pass into an unknown, untried existence. Dear Father, if the soul buckles on it the armor of faith, if the eye is kindled with hope, then death loses its terror. In my sickness, I had harbored bitter thoughts towards God. Life was sweet to me, and I felt as if I was going out from the atmosphere of warmth and light into a cold, chilly atmosphere. realization of this great truth. I understand the significance now of being born again. It might have been 12 hours after my death that I came to my consciousness. The first sensation I experienced was a perfect freedom from pain and longing. I felt as if I was wrapped in soft wool, impregnated with sweet, reviving odors. The sense of smell is the first sense which comes to a newborn spirit, then the hearing, and groups of beings become more vivid as the eyes grow accustomed to the light around them. All this time I had forgotten you and Mother, because the sensations I experienced were so new that I was absorbed in them. As we moved onward, I beheld beautiful palaces, trees, flowers, and long avenues filled with bright beings moving to and fro. But the luminous appearance of every object filled me with awe and reverence. I found myself touching everything to see if the objects were real. Many kind angels came to me and explained the mystery of my spirit birth. Then I thought of you and Mother and Franny, who I left so desolate behind. I was told I could not manifest my presence. It affords me comfort to feel that you were reconciled to my loss. I'm confident in the knowledge that I should live again. I was permitted to attend my own funeral, and the heartfelt grief manifested by my classmates and friends gave me much satisfaction because of its sincerity. It was a trying ordeal to my feelings not to be able to manifest myself by word or sign. I've long desired to give you an insight into my spiritual life. It is right that you should view the spirit world through the pure white light of truth. We do not sit upon clouds and sing praises to God. The Christian's idea of heaven is embodied in the above statement. Keep the fact of your own identity ever before your vision, and then you will perceive that we require external forms of symmetry and beauty as much as the mortals require objects of utility. All the objects in the spheres are tangible to our touch. If we inhabit mansions, they do not spring up spontaneously. We construct them from every material that decays here, but reappears in a more sublimated form. The electric essence that fills all matter is imperishable. The philosopher and the atheist do not believe in future existence because they sum up life in the following manner: form, color, motion, and life. They reason that when motion ceases, which is the vitalizing power, the color fades and the form crumbles. They think this is the end. But their philosophy is narrowed down to their human vision. It is true there cannot be life without the first principle of motion. But when a spirit departs from its tabernacle of clay, it enters into another body, more ethereal than its earthly form. If the philosophy of decay were true, if there were not any change constantly going on, you would see a blossom, but not a full flower. Each storm is permeated with the spirit essence which is constantly developing it. You believe that your present form undergoes a change every 7 years. The law of mutation proves that there is a constant decay and a supply needed. The growth of the body indicates the change of the bone and muscle and blood. Why should this wonderful change stop at the grave? It is true that there is a visible decay after the spirit has left, but even as God's spirit permeates all matter, so does the spirit of man permeate the interior essence that has arisen from Earth's body. Our minds realize the great change which gives them a new body every 7 years, but physiology proves this period. The spirit outgrows its garment of flesh and puts on another more beautiful, but still one subject to changes. At the end of every sphere, the spirit passes through the second death, spoken of in the 20th chapter, 14th verse of Revelation. But, dear Father, I will not dwell upon this point, since you believe in the immortality of the soul. I will not undertake to convince those who are skeptical. Many believe that the spirit exists after death in the form of essences without consciousness. But the essence will sometimes return to this earth body and stand before judgment seat. But no one can conceive of being without form or color or motion, even in the resurrection of Christ. And his appearance in spirit has failed to convince the most incredulous. You believe that he rose from the dead, that his spirit appeared to his disciples and vanished from their midst. Thus have I have risen, just like all the buried millions who have died, just as you will. We not only exist, but we retain our faculties the same. We gradually come under the influence that fall down, the influences that fall down from the minds of those who are intelligent and holy. We have colleges of learning where every talent is cultivated. Since the earth is but the rudimental sphere where society distorts certain things, it becomes necessary to have different degrees of spheres where the soul can expand into full stature. Perfection belongs to the infinite Father. We can aspire toward perfection as fast as we unfold in knowledge. So we develop higher taste that requires cultivation. Therefore, 1,000 years from now, eternity will happy circle, never weary of each other. Because we will see something to admire and love constantly. I think you do realize that the world of man is tending upward, that the enlightened portion of mankind is striving to reach the real life beyond the boundary of the grave. But I desire that you should realize that the spirit life is the ultimate of the life below. I wish to envelop the reality of your existence with spirit influences and bring them out vividly before your eyes, just as the moonlight makes a clear, lucid background for a passing ship for your earthly life. So, your spirit life is embodied. What a profound thought this is. I wish I'd realized it more fully. Try to believe that every action that comes, both good and evil, is stamped upon your spirit, that you carry the impress with you into your existence, and live out all the broken resolutions and half-formed purposes. If every intelligent mind understood that there would be less remorse, and the burden of sin and crime would be lessened when the spirit stood stripped. Father, man cannot see this perfection and this revealed dispensation termed spiritualism. Spiritualism may be the means of elevating those who are standing halfway between theology and transcendence. Mankind needs this revelation, for the dead languages of the past have not awakened belief in God's mercy and power. The Egyptian mummies will not satisfy the misled, or the soul that searches for the mysteries of life, nor the bodies under the dissecting knife. They won't be satisfied. They can't satisfy the yearning soul. There must be a power in the atmosphere that reveals the capabilities of mankind and unlocks them. If God unveiled himself to past ages, he must reveal himself unto those who are seeking his power.